the last time we live, it was all pixelated. I don't know why. But I'm almost home, so if it is pixelated, that should fix it. But race and perspective, right? And I don't necessarily think that other demographics, well, I ain't gonna say other demographics, let's white, because in America, it's almost like black and white. And I've heard other minority groups say that they feel left out of the conversation because everything is about black and white. And most of that, the reason for that is due to, the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, right? That what made it basically a black versus white thing, and minorities, they fall wherever they fall in between those two polarities, right? But when it comes to the issues of race as it pertains to black people, I'm not going to necessarily have those conversations with people that are not part of the demographic or the culture, right? And I find something very, very, very interesting, right? So you have the black people that acknowledge that they are black. And then you have these black people that do not acknowledge that they are black. Okay. And the interesting thing about the people that acknowledge that they are not black is they tend to have a mentality that is similar to those that maybe descendants of folk that own people that look like me. And I find that very, very interesting. Now, I will say there are varying degrees of that particular phenomenon. And like today, and it's not just today, it's been a couple of days. So I've hung out on the Boxing Scholars panel when he was having a conversation about a black topic. And today I hung out over on Big J's channel for like 9 hours listening to this discussion. And so I've also been privy to conversations where, people that would, they won't take a necessarily a pro-black perspective, or a sellout simply for the way that they think. And I had to sit down and really ponder that. So I just stopped judging them for some of the things that come out of their mouth that I may disagree with, and just really actually listen to them. And from what I gathered, based on what I was listening to, it seems to me that these people need to think this way. They have to think the way that they think it. Because to think anything less than the way that they think, it might impede their ability to be successful in life. And I don't necessarily think that that is something that a person should be judged for. Case in point, let's talk about Brandon Tatum. Brandon Tatum needs to be judged, okay? Because all that tap dancing that he doing, bruh, you sitting up here trying to cover folk ass in ways that they ain't even covered their own ass, sir. You need to sit your ass down. Like, there is no excuse for him to be doing what he's doing to the level and the degree in which he's doing it, right? But then I think about other people that have these conversations, right? And they may think along the lines of people that don't necessarily think like me, right? Now, for instance, if somebody was to see you, they would classify you as black. They will vehemently skirt around that issue. They won't acknowledge that there was well, you know, if that's what they would do, I can't do nothing about what they would do. That's what I experienced earlier today, on Big J's channel talking to SKC. Like he was going around and round and round. Like, sir, stop it. Like you a black man. For anybody that's on the outside looking in, they would classify you as black. Like what? Okay, so you don't want to acknowledge that, but that's the elephant in the room. I have also noticed that people that think that way, it's specifically black men, really feel like having a black woman on their side somehow impedes their upward mobility as well. I don't necessarily understand that. How you doing, Room Shaker? I don't necessarily. How you doing? What's your name? Jaylee? How you doing, Jaylee? I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't come from that mind frame. But in listening to these people talk and have the discussions that they have, I'm like, well, you know what? America, America, it is a racist country. It's a racist country. So when you're trying to make sense of the nonsensical, because racism is an idiot's game, right? It's an idiot game. You can't be intelligent and be racist. So if you're trying to make sense of something that's nonsensical, you have to be able to justify the injustices that are happening in a way that makes sense to you. Because accepting the reality for what it actually is can be detrimental to your mental health. And that's the way I had to start processing some of the way that these people think. Like, if they were to actually accept that, no, this is wrong, this is happening, maybe not just because of a race thing, but that is a large percentage or a factor in the way that these things are happening, that could psychologically destroy them for having like some type of upward mobility in this society. And I have to consider that. Hey, ABC, and let me tell you something. That's some deep pondering and some soul searching that I got, because baby, look, let me tell you something. If you start sounding like you a Sambo, okay, I'm gonna cuss you out. Okay, because I don't understand how you can see and understand the history and how this country treats people based on factors that they don't have no control over. Nobody has control over what they skin look like when they born here. But somehow this particular society utilizes race for everything. You fill out a job application, they want to know what your race is. You fill out any application, school application, they want to know what your race is. Why is your race a factor for anything that is necessary? Because it's a racist country. It's a racist country. It always has been. Now, racism is a byproduct of classism, which that's what a lot of people like to default to. But you can't get to the root problem without going through all these symptoms, right? So, for instance, case in point, we got a demented, we got a demented geriatric motherfucker sitting in the highest seats. I would say the world, but we're gonna have to call it the land, okay? Because the United States of America finna be, who knows? I don't even know if the country gonna be what the country has been for the past 250 years. By the time they decide to eject this fool out this CO, I don't even know what's gonna happen. This is so crazy. But to listen to some of these people, and what was interesting to me is I don't oftentimes see, and don't get me wrong, I don't go looking for discussions about race issues according to black folk around other demographics of people. Because if you don't live my reality, you don't really have nothing to offer me. If you are somebody that just assumes something because that's what you heard or that's what you were programmed by society, then you don't have nothing to offer me. It's another thing for people who have been around black folk, been a part of black culture, to have a thought process or something to say. But most of the time, when I have heard other people who are not black speak about black things, they not part of the culture. They haven't been around black folk. They have not had any up close interpersonal relationships with black people to actually understand anything about black folk as a culture. What they have is society's stereotypes, um, and the propaganda that society puts out about black folk. They don't really know black people. Most people that have had contact, and I'm talking about people that are not black, that have had interactions and close knit relationships with black folk, understand that a lot of this stuff that's put out as who black people are as a demographic of people is not true. But for those that don't have those relationships, in America, it's largely segregated. Like, we not a country where, oh, we all get along. That is a damn lie, right? So it's just interesting to see how these people react. Now, as far as black folk that are, we are in post-racial America, and yes, black people are the racist people. I'm talking about the black people that say stuff like this. I have also seen them want to sit amongst other black people, and they know we don't share that particular mindset, that particular thought, but they always come around us. And then when they come around us, and we tell them, what, basically, you like a race trader, like you a Sambo, you a coon, you a house, you like Uncle Ruckus. We say stuff like that, and they take it very personal. Like, I don't want to be called this because I think differently. So you want us to accept you, but from our perspective and our point of view, the things that you were saying are detrimental to us, because you feel like you have to take on this particular ideology. And I get it. You trying to make sense of something that's nonsensical in a racist society. And I get it. But you feel alienated that we not really accepting of your point of view. And I found that really interesting. And then I'm like, okay, well, if they feel alienated and they in this country just like we are, and I'm listening to you, and it's almost as if you are dismissing all of the atrocities that's happening. You're looking for every reason to try and justify why an injustice occurred, rather than just accept that this is an injustice simply because of how a person was born. I had to think, like, there was no therapy for black folk coming out of slavery. You know what I'm saying? There was no modalities built around helping black folk try to adjust in American society. Black folks just had to get out here and get it the way that they can. So me taking on that particular perspective is like, how much more damage am I causing this person by classifying them as a coon, as a sellout, etc., when all they trying to do is survive in this racist system? And I had to think about that. But don't get me wrong, it's levels and degrees to this shit, because somebody like Brandon Tatum, somebody like Candace Owens, baby, look, they can sell y'all up the river, and I wouldn't blink an eye, bat an eyelash, protest, nothing. I don't give a damn, because the stuff that y'all do is too much for TV. It's just too much. Like the length, like I'm saying, Brandon Tatum sacrificing his own career basically to cover the asses of folk bruh, no, you doing too damn much. So I like that stuff. I cannot excuse, but for the people that like just living their day-to-day life and they take on a perspective that I don't necessarily agree with, I'm not sure if I need to continue to just talk to their ass crazy. I think I should just understand that everybody is doing what they feel like they need to do to survive in this society. Now, part of this is also coming from Dr. Joyce DeGroy. I think that's how you say her name. And she wrote the book Post Traumatic Slave Disorder. And what's interesting is when you say that to some of these folk that don't believe, that believe that we in a post-racial society and all of those sorts of things, they laugh. They also understand what I also understand, um, as somebody that also works is social services, and what I've learned is that's an actual thing. Like intergenerational trauma is a thing. So the things that your ancestors experience do travel through your bloodlines and your DNA. And like people, they laugh at that, but that's an actual thing. So like those atrocities are carried even in some modern times. And when you have institutions, right, you have institutions that are systemic. For instance, the American Psychological Association came out a couple of years ago and said, yeah, we did not put out any modalities for other demographics of people inside of this society. All our modalities was basically built off of white mindset, white ideology, and things of that nature. Well, that don't necessarily work for everybody else when they are facing certain realities. And granted, maybe some of the realities that they are perceiving maybe what's the word exaggerated, because of that intergenerational trauma that they have on top of whatever other trauma that they've experienced in their life. But if there is no psychological modality or therapeutic process to help them navigate these things, what's up, Ellie? Then I'm thinking, well, how can I fault somebody that takes a Uncle Rookie's point of view? You know what I'm saying? Now, if you like Steven, you doing too much. I miss you like a hog love slop to your slave master is crazy, okay? Like that shit that Candace Owens does and Brandon Tatum does, like I can't rock with it. But for folk that, for the going ideas that black folk have around certain ideologies, if they have to look at other ways to try to explain why the things that have happened to black people are actually normal, then I don't think I should I don't think I should contribute to any further trauma or psychological damage by telling them, you a coon, you a Sambo, you a race traitor. I think I should just respect the fact that the mindset that they have is the mindset that they have to have in order to survive in this society. As hard as there may be for me to process, because in my mind, this is the reality. But in their mind, that is the reality for them as well. How you doing, ASMR by nature? ABT, they definitely was on one. But at the same time, I'm looking at how in depth that they go to try and deny what is obvious. And if you are delving that deep to try to deny what's right in front of your face, I feel like trying to convince you to do anything otherwise at some point would cause psychological damage. And my proof of that would be, if it was that serious, you wouldn't want to sit around the rest of us. They come around us. They want to be around us. They want us to accept them. And should we alienate them? Should we? Because I think that, for instance, Candace. I don't think Candace has any black friends. So Candace, to hell with her. I don't think Brandon Tatum have any black friends. So like, to hell with them. But some of these other people, they are consistently and always around us. They hit the panels that we are on when we having discussions. They um they watch they watch us and they discuss us. They discuss the topics. And then they ask us why we don't accept them. So I'm just like, when we have intergenerational trauma going on, are we causing more damage to them as a black person, even though they do everything to avoid accepting the fact that they black ideologically? But soul wise, they got to know they black, because why would they keep coming around us? You said, what's the point in keeping them around? Okay. So the point in keeping them around, I would say this. I do not like when folk that don't have the experience that I do try to tell us what we should be thinking. But them, they are us, even though they don't want to admit us. But what they can do is give us the perspective of them. Okay? Because even though, and I'm not talking, like, it's levels and degrees to this. I'm not talking about them folks that will see a black life being taken and find a way to justify their life being taken. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that have some sense of humanity toward us, even though they have what we would consider a very flawed ideology. I'm talking about them. So ASMR said, I'm married to a Jamaican / English woman from the UK. I'm Irish with red hair. We have a 17-year-old daughter. I love the multiracial person she is. Color is irrelevant on every level, unless you live in a racist society. And then color is relevant, because color will have you experiencing things that don't make no sense. Color will have you experiencing things that might question your self-esteem, your self-worth, your value, just because by nature of an experience, you trying to figure out why people talking to you a certain way, why people are treating you a certain way. And like I said, it's nonsensical. I mean, me personally, myself, I feel like race is an being racist is an idiot's game. Like, because it makes absolutely no sense. Being racist causes more harm to humanity than it does to the people that's actually perpetuating the hate. So I don't think that is the behavior of anybody that's intelligent. But if you live in a racist country, you can't deny that. And I'm just saying that, based off some conversations that I have had with folks that deny that racism exists, or they take on the perspective, and I'm talking about people that are black, take on the perspective that black people are more racist than white folk in American society. I don't necessarily think that I need to ostracize them or alienate them. I think that would do more harm to them. I think they need to survive. I think it would be different if they were actively separating themselves from us. And don't get me wrong, in some ways they do. you know. Um, Particularly, I haven't really come across any women that share this mindset. I know they out there. I see their YouTube channels all the time. I just have never had conversations with them. Most of the conversations I've had are black men, and they are married to non-black women, and they believe that their success is because they are not with a black woman, which was so interesting today because it was interesting because one of the things that one of the panelists was saying, SKC was naming all these men that had, made strides in society or whatever the case may be, that were married to non-black women, but then said that Barack Obama wouldn't have been president if he wasn't married to Michelle. And I'm like, he had to have Michelle in order for him to be president. But y'all swear that being with a black woman will stop you from success. That was kind of contradictory there, but I mean, look, like I said, I honestly believe. Did you see my comments about? Yes, I was reading all your comments. I was reading all of your comments because, like, I seriously believe that they have to see the world through this particular view. Because what I could not understand is, you sound like them. You sound like them. Not sure if you actually behave like them, but you sound like them. So since you sound like them, why are you around us? Like, what is the purpose of you continuously being around us? You still want to be here. Why are you here? Shouldn't you be over there with them? Since their ideology makes all the sense, since they do no wrong, you should be over there with them, right? Why are they here with us? Because this is home. But the way they have to view the world in order to maintain their sanity is like that. And I just think maybe we should just accept that they trying to get through just like the rest of us trying to get through, except for they can't accept the reality of what it actually is. And that's where my mind is right now when it comes to that sort of thing. ASMR by nature said, I experienced racism growing up often in violent encounters. I still never was racist unless the ignorance exists for no real reason. And that's unfortunate. I mean, racism is ignorant for no reason. To to classify somebody as something just based off their skin color is ignorant. That's ignorant. That is ignorant. Nobody said, you know what? Let me pick this particular skin right here, and then that's gonna give me this particular reality, and I'm gonna go to Earth and do this. Like that's not what happens. And if that is what happens, we don't recollect that by the time we get to this plane. So again, judging somebody off of something they have no control over is very ignorant. It's very ignorant. Racism makes no sense. Racism does more harm than it does good. But who am I to fight anybody because they have to view the world a certain way to get through? Yeah, my husband looking for me. I've been sitting in the car. But yeah, I that's where I am right now, because for me, I'm like, why y'all always around? You know how, you was in kindergarten or whatever, and they give you the paper, and it's like which one does not belong, and once you figure it out, you see you don't belong, but you always here. Like, I don't just see them in one specific place. I see them in black spaces all the time. So you want to be here. That's kind of strange to me. And then when I start thinking about, there are no how we survive in this system we get from our support system, which is us. And I think listening to us gives them a modes to think about how they can switch this reality in a way that's digestible for them to keep moving. And I think we should do the same. I think we should listen to their point of view because it's an open window into how these other folk think. And then we can turn around and use that to our advantage. And then we don't necessarily have to go outside of ourselves to find out what the hell's going on. I think it's a win-win both ways. And that way, we are not inflicting more trauma on each other because we having conversations for understanding and navigation. And I think that's where I'm at right now. Okay. Now, will I feel this way in 6 months? I don't know. I might go back to cuss people out and call them half niggas. I might I might do that. But for right now, I think I don't need to do that. I think that is creating more trauma. But like I said, again, it's levels to this. Because this shit Brandon Tatum doing this right now, he look like a whole goddamn fool. And sir, no hell, we don't claim you. We don't want you. You stay over there with them people and love it. Okay? And when they get to dragging your ass around the world, okay, then stay over there with them. Okay? That's all I'm saying. But for the people that's their worldview and they're not actively harming black folk, cause like to sit up here and call a grieving mother all kind of names. Sorry, what the fuck is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? Like, even if you don't agree with what they doing, sitting up here calling this lady everything but a child of God when she just lost her son and she don't know how she lost her son. Sir, you are a deplorable bastard. And I mean this with every fiber of my being. I hope one of your children meet the same fate. I do. I do. Brandon Tatum, I hope somebody sitting next to you. I hope one of your children meet the same fate and you get up here in public and show us what you gonna do in this situation. Because the stuff that you saying, first of all, don't even make no sense from a legal perspective. And you supposed to be somebody's police officer. You know the stuff you saying don't make no sense. Oh, why she ain't calling them? Why the fuck would I call a suspected suspect and have a conversation with them during an active investigation? If you a damn fool, I can't. People like that, no, that's a lost cause. Ain't no sense in keeping them around. And I have to say, I ain't seen Brandon Tatum hang around no black spaces. So, I mean, that one pretty much alienates himself. But for the ones that keep coming around, want to socialize and then say stuff to us like, well, y'all got to call us this and that because we think a different way. I think we should accept them to a certain degree. I ain't saying bring them into the fold, sit down, break bread with them or nothing like that, but a long handle spoon, I think we can do that. I think dap them up and be cordial with them, I think we can do that. I think that's taking care of our community, even though they swear they not a part of it, but they always a part of it. So yeah, them my thoughts on that, just because of some of the conversations that I've been seeing. If y'all think something otherwise, then leave a comment after the video. All right. On that note, I'm finna hop up off here and go in here. I need to create my short because I didn't get my short this morning for today's outfit. So I'm gonna put that short up on the other channel if y'all want to see what I wore today. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Thank y'all for coming. Peace out.